So, how does Buzzsprout compare to its competitors? Well, let's see. Now, before we get into today's video, if you want to launch a successful podcast, you're going to need this checklist down in the description. And it's essentially going to go through the whole process of how you can launch a successful podcast. And if you want to go get it, down below. Now, the hosting platform that we're going to be going over is called Buzzsprout. If you want to try out Buzzsprout, I have a link down below that when you pay for Buzzsprout, you essentially get a $20 gift card and for Amazon. It's as simple as that. And you're like, oh, that's a nice bonus. Yeah, it's essentially what you get. But let's get straight into Buzzsprout. Now, it's known as the #1 hosting platform, and there's a few reasons why. They have a fantastic free plan. The transitioning is also good. They have a mastering option. You can easily connect to other applications. You have the option to create marketing material. You can create dynamic advertising, and you also get good stats. But I'm going to go over every single one in more depth. But those are the main takeaways of Buzzsprout. If those are something that is significant to you, I suggest getting Buzzsprout. At Diligence Media, we always recommend our clients to get either Buzzsprout or Captivate. I'll be making another video on Captivate, but those two are like, for us, the ones that stand out the most. There are Libsyn as well, but we find that Buzzsprout and Captivate just do things differently. And we like different. So #1 was the free plan. Now, why is a free plan really good? And why is a free plan really good when you're starting out and you're perhaps creating a podcast? Well, you can set up your whole podcast, all the back end and the front end for free on Buzzsprout. You'll find with some platforms that if you want to set up your podcast on the hosting platform and you want to apply to various applications and sort out advertising, sort out the back end, the graphics, everything, it can take a lot of time, and it could even take a whole month, if not longer. You might even lose focus, you might get disinterested, you might have a whole change of plan, and because of that puts a lot of stress, but also you're spending more money because it might go over a month, might go over 2 months, 3 months, whatever. But if you're building on a free platform, it's like a stress-free environment, and that stress-free environment is key because you could build the whole thing in however long you want, but it's all for free. There's a free platform, and then once you're happy, you can launch your podcast, and then you can pay for a paid plan. #2 is transitioning, and this basically means, let's say you already have a podcast and you're using either like Libsyn, Captivate, Anchor, there's so many hosting platforms, but let's say you're already using one, but you want to try out Buzzsprout, you prefer it, you think it looks better. After the video, you're like, I want Buzzsprout. Well, they make the transition between your old hosting platform to Buzzsprout really simple, and that's really refreshing because it's quite stressful if you're trying to do it all yourself, and because it's all stressful, you're like, do I really want to spend the time? I think I might just stay with my original hosting platform. But why would you want to stay with your original hosting platform if you're looking for a new hosting platform? So they made the whole transition super easy, and who doesn't like an easy transition? #3 is mastering, and why is this important? Well, let's say you're not editing your podcast. You don't even have an editor. You don't have like an agency like us to edit your podcast. You just you sort of want to throw the audio up there and hope for the best. Well, that's a bad idea originally, but let's say, with Buzzsprout, you're on their paid plan and they have a mastering feature, which basically means it makes your audio better. And if they have that as an option and you're not editing it yourself, you're not paying for an editor, it's a great option. A lot of people with a podcast, when they're first starting out, they just want to like test the waters. So they kind of just put up like raw audio just to see what it will sound like. In most cases, it will sound pretty crap. But if you have a mastering option, it will make it better. It won't make it perfect. In no way will it make it pretty good. But it will make it better. And if that is an option that you want, then of course get that. But I will always recommend for anyone, even if you're not reaching out to a podcast editor or an agency, edit yourself. Go on Audacity. You can learn it in like 30 minutes and just do some basic edits because it will make your audio so much better. Number 4, you can easily connect to platforms/apps. And this is essentially you're connecting to the likes of Spotify, the likes of Apple, iTunes, Google, Amazon, TuneIn, there's so many, Stitcher. It makes the whole process so simple. It makes it so easy. Genuinely, all you have to do is really apply. And then once you've applied and you've gone on, let's say, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon, and you launch your podcast, you launch an episode, it will automatically go on all of those platforms in a matter of minutes. Some take a few hours, but generally it takes a few minutes, and that's so refreshing. Most hosting platforms will have this option. There are some that don't. Don't go with those hosting platforms. Don't waste your time with them. Buzzsprout do it. Libsyn do it. Now, number 5 is marketing material. Why is this important? This is so important, but why is it important? Right, you've spent ages creating a podcast and you're putting it out there and you're like, I'm not getting much traction, I'm not getting much of an audience. And that's because you've got to promote it. With anything in business, you have to promote it. If you're not promoting your podcast, how do you think you're going to get new listeners? Organically? Through the actual platforms is rare. You'll get a small bit of traction, but if you don't promote yourself properly, you're not going to get a big audience, let alone a good, trusted audience. So you're going to want to promote it through marketing material. What is marketing material? It's little snippets of the podcast. Even if your podcast audio, you can create visualizers and stuff like that. And you're like, well, I don't know how to make marketing material. This sounds way too complicated. It's actually quite easy. You can use platforms like Veed, which kind of do the process for you. They do cost. They do have a free plan, but it's not great. You could pay a podcast editor, for example, at Diligence Media. When we edit podcasts, within the actual podcast, we'll give them marketing material as well because we want to promote the podcast. There's no point just editing it. We want to promote it. But let's say you're not going to an editor. Let's say you don't want to make it yourself. What's the option there? Buzzsprout have their own little feature and they can create marketing material for you. It's not great. It's just sort of minimal visualizers, but when you're first starting out and you don't really have either the budget or the time, or you just don't want to make marketing material, Buzzsprout will do it for you. You have to go through the process, but they'll do it for you. And that'll save you a lot of time. And that's what I used to do at the very, very start when I did podcast editing. And I used that feature. But it's not great, but it's a good starting point. Now, the stats, otherwise known as the statistics, they're big. They're very, very useful and they're very insightful. You'll find that you'll get a lot of basic stats, but you can also get more amplified and better stats if you pay for a better plan. But the basic stats will put you in a good position on letting you know where your podcast is going. You don't want to be running your podcast for a few months and putting out the same content. And let's say you're putting out hour-long episodes, which I don't recommend anyway, but let's say you're putting out hour-long episodes and the drop-off rate is at 30 minutes. That's an indication that you should put your podcast limit in terms of the time duration at 30 minutes, not an hour, because people are getting bored after half an hour. Lower the length of the actual episode, and that's what stats will tell you. And you can make those sort of decisions by having those stats. Now, dynamic advertising is essentially adding adverts or section breaks to your podcast in a way that is simple to do. You can add up-to-date ones in a very simple way. For a lot of people, and for most people, they'll just add it in actual editing itself. But that is a way that you can do it. Now, if all of those options are something that stands out to you and you're like, this is a no-brainer for me, but I do have a link in the description where you get a $20 free gift card if you pay with Buzzsprout. I don't know why you get it with Amazon, but you do. And who doesn't like a free gift card? But if you're also wanting to launch a successful podcast, then I do have a checklist down in the description. But I do hope you've enjoyed today's video. And also, just before we end today's video, we have launched our very own TikTok of basically a shorter version of these videos. We're going to be doing YouTube Shorts and Instagram as well. And we're also going to be doing a Facebook group. So if you want to join our Facebook group, we'll put a link in the description. We've literally just made it, so it is small. but we do plan to grow it and to make it successful. But if you want to be a part of that, down in the description, all links are in the description. And anyway, peace out.